Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India Live, India's voice to the world. I'm Shubhendu Ghosh. Coming up in the next 30 minutes. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi attends Mauritius National Day celebrations, honoured with Grand Commander of the Order of the Star and Key of the Indian Ocean. India-Mauritius exchange 8 MOUs in key areas, extend cooperation in infrastructure, digital tech and AI. Trump tariffs on steel and aluminium imports come into play. European Union to retaliate with counter-tariffs. Greenland's pro-business opposition wins general election. Trump's pledge to take control of the mineral-rich island clouds the political path ahead. Prime Minister Narendra Modi is en route New Delhi after a fruitful 2-day visit to Mauritius. He visited Mauritius to attend the 57th National Day celebrations of the island nation. Mauritius witnessed an overwhelming display of love and admiration for India as people lined up on the streets to catch a glimpse of Prime Minister Modi. People were holding the Indian flag along with the flag of Mauritius in their hands. The warm welcome reflected the deep-rooted bond between India and Mauritius, showcasing the strong cultural and historical ties shared by the two nations. Earlier, Prime Minister was honoured with the highest national award of Mauritius, the Grand Commander of Order of the Star and Key of the Indian Ocean. Prime Minister Modi was conferred with Mauritius' highest civilian award by President of Mauritius, Dharam Gokul, during the celebrations of Mauritius National Day for his stellar contribution to India-Mauritius partnership. Prime Minister Modi is the first Indian to receive this honour. He was the chief guest at the celebrations of National Day. He thanked the 140 crore people of India and the centuries-old friendship between the two nations.
I express my heartfelt gratitude for being confirmed the highest national award of Mauritius. This is not just my honor. It is the honor of 1.4 billion Indians. It is a tribute to the centuries-old cultural and historical bonds of kinship between India and Mauritius.
Reaffirming India's unwavering commitment to its special maritime neighbour, Prime Minister Narendra Modi attended the National Day celebrations of Mauritius as the chief guest at Champ de Mars, Mauritius. An Indian Navy contingent also took part in the parade. NCC cadets, part of the youth exchange program, also joined in the celebrations. One of the special highlights of the event was the song Jai Ho that was played by the Mauritius band. PM Modi also extended his greetings of the day to people of Mauritius. Prime Minister Modi and his Mauritian counterpart Naveen Chandra Ramkulam inaugurated 20 high-impact community development projects at the Indian-assisted Area Health Centre. These initiatives will bolster Mauritius healthcare and grassroots infrastructure, bringing tangible benefits to the people. The leaders also witnessed exchange of 8 MOUs in areas including financial crime prevention, SMEs, public service capacity building, maritime security and local currency trade. A navigational chart of St. Brandon Island was also handed over. Prime Ministers Modi and Ramkulam also engaged in extensive discussions to strengthen bilateral ties. Their talks focused on enhancing collaboration in key sectors including infrastructure, housing, digital technology, healthcare, AI and more. Prime Minister Modi and his Mauritian counterpart Naveen Chandra Ramkulam jointly addressed the media. Prime Minister highlighted India's vision for the global south, terming it as a Mahasagar, that is mutual and holistic advancement for security and growth for all in the region. This vision would guide development cooperation, capacity building, sustainable growth and mutual security for the shared future.
ग्लोबल साउथ के लिए हमारा विजन रहेगा सागर से आगे बढ़कर के महासागर, यानी म्यूचुअल एंड होलिस्टिक एडवांसमेंट फॉर सिक्योरिटी एंड ग्रोथ अक्रॉस रीजन्स. इसमें ट्रेड फॉर डेवलपमेंट, कैपेसिटी बिल्डिंग फॉर सस्टेनेबल ग्रोथ और म्यूचुअल सिक्योरिटी फॉर शेयर्ड फ्यूचर की भावना समाहित है. इसके तहत टेक्नोलॉजी शेयरिंग, कंसेशनल लोन और ग्रांट के माध्यम से सहयोग किया जाएगा.
Addressing the joint press conference, Prime Minister Modi also extended India's support to Mauritius for free, open, secure and safe Indian Ocean.
Free, open, secure and safe Indian Ocean हमारी साझी प्राथमिकता है. हम मॉरिशस के एक्सक्लूसिव इकोनॉमिक जोन की सुरक्षा में पूर्ण सहयोग देने के लिए प्रतिबद्ध है. इस संदर्भ में कोस्ट गार्ड की जरूरतें पूरी करने में हर संभव सहायता दी जाएगी. मॉरिशस में पुलिस अकादमी और नेशनल मैरीटाइम इंफॉर्मेशन शेयरिंग सेंटर, इसकी स्थापना में भारत सहयोग देगा. वाइट शिपिंग, ब्लू इकोनॉमी और हाइड्रोग्राफी, इस पर सहयोग को और मजबूत किया जाएगा. चागोस के संदर्भ में हम मॉरिशस की संप्रभुता का पूर्ण सम्मान करते हैं.
Mauritius Prime Minister Naveen Chandra Ramkulam, welcoming India's Prime Minister, highlighted the unique and special relations that binds the two nations.
Prime Minister of the Republic of India has honored us by his presence amidst us on the occasion of the National Day celebrations of the 57th anniversary of our independence. His distinguished presence on this momentous occasion is testimony to the unique and very special relations which bind our two countries. The resounding success of the community event held last evening at the Triano Convention Center, which gathered both Mauritian citizens and members of the Indian diaspora, was a clear illustration of the vibrancy of shared cultural heritage.
Prime Minister Modi, along with Mauritius Prime Minister Naveen Chandra Ramkulam, jointly inaugurated the Atal Bihari Vajpayee Institute of Public Service and Innovation. The institute will serve as a hub for learning, research and public service, fostering new ideas and leadership for the future. It also strengthens India's shared commitment to progress and development. Prime Minister also engaged with the iTech and Government of India Scholarship alumni, whose contributions continue to strengthen the partnerships. As a tribute to his legacy in efforts to strengthen relations, the institute has been named after former Prime Minister of India, Atal Bihari Vajpayee. Prime Minister Modi offered prayers at the revered Ganga Talao in Mauritius today and infused the holy waters from Triveni Sangam from the Mahakumbh Mela in Prayagraj. The offering meaningfully symbolized the shared devotion, cultural affinity and sacred ties between India and Mauritius. And Prime Minister Modi began his day two holding meetings with key leaders. Prime Minister Modi met former Mauritius Prime Minister Praveen Jagannath. The leaders discussed enhancing India-Mauritius cooperation. PM Modi also met leader of the opposition. They had fruitful deliberation on further strengthening India-Mauritius friendship. On to some other stories now. With the announcement of poll results in Greenland, the winning of pro-business opposition over the incumbent left-wing coalition amid US President Trump's pledge to take control of the mineral-rich island, the political scenario of the island may witness major changes in days to come. Greenland's pro-business opposition Democratic Party won Tuesday's closely watched parliamentary election, beating the incumbent left-wing coalition in a vote dominated by US President Donald Trump's pledge to take control over the island. Democratic, which favors a slow approach to independence from Denmark, secured 29.9% of the votes, with all ballots counted, up from 9.1% in 2021, ahead of the opposition Nalarak Party, which favors rapid independence at 24.5%. Greenland is a former Danish colony and Copenhagen still controls foreign affairs and defense and monetary policy, provides just under $1 billion a year to the economy. In 2009, it won the right to declare full independence through a referendum, even though it has not done so out of concern that living standards would drop without Denmark's economic support. The vast island has been caught up in a geopolitical race for dominance in the Arctic, where melting ice caps are making its resources more accessible and opening new shipping routes. Both Russia and China have intensified military activity in the region. Since taking office in January, Donald Trump has vowed to make Greenland part of the United States, saying it is vital to US security interests, an idea rejected by most Greenlanders. Trump said he is determined to get the vast Arctic island one way or the other. The lead-up to the election to choose the 31-seat parliament was mostly marked by debates on healthcare, education and future ties with Denmark. All of Greenland's main political parties back independence but disagree on the time frame. Bureau Report, DD India. And still to come on this edition of DD India Live, we track the updates on the Pakistan train hijack incident. US to resume security support to Ukraine as Kiev says it is ready to accept ceasefire proposal.
This week on Defense Dynamics, India showcases its naval prowess through TROPEX-25. Is the country sending a strong message to China and other regional powers about its maritime power projection? Also, with Pakistan trying to acquire new stealth fighters and China's growing military might, can the Indian Defence Forces counter the looming two-front war? As tensions prevail with China and Bangladesh, are the India's military exercises near critical Siliguri corridor important for safeguarding security in the northeast? And hundreds of Alawite civilians have been killed in Syria's coastal region. Is the new Syrian government turning on its own people? Tune in this Wednesday at 8 p.m. IST only on DD India.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India Live. I'm Shubhendu Ghosh. Militants attacked Pakistan's Jafar Express in Balochistan, injuring the driver and derailing the train. The Baloch Liberation Army took 214 passengers hostage out of 425 people on board. Security forces engaged in a fierce gunfight but struggled due to the rugged terrain. At least 30 militants were killed in the operation, while Pakistani forces rescued 190 hostages. Dozens remain captive as the BLA demands the release of political prisoners. In response, Pakistan has suspended rail services to Quetta. Clouds of uncertainty looming over the fate of Russia-Ukraine conflict seems to be diminishing as Ukraine has accepted US-brokered 30-day ceasefire proposal and to hold immediate negotiations with Russia during peace talks in Saudi Arabia's Jeddah. While leaders hail Ukraine's decision, President Trump is set to hold a meeting with both the parties soon.
United States' 30-day ceasefire proposal marked a pivotal decision in the ongoing conflict between Russia and Ukraine, as top US and Ukrainian officials held talks in Saudi Arabia's Jeddah, aiming to move ahead towards ending the 3-year-long conflict. In a significant development, Ukraine has agreed to accept the ceasefire proposal and to hold immediate negotiations with Russia, a step towards restoring a durable peace, according to a joint US-Ukraine statement on Tuesday.
It is indeed written there that Ukraine is ready to accept, if Russia agrees to it. To introduce a 30-day ceasefire is the first step in order to start preparing some more important document to prepare for negotiations.
The statement further said that the two sides have also agreed to conclude a comprehensive agreement for developing Ukraine's critical mineral resource soon. Also, the United States have agreed to resume military aid and intelligence sharing with Ukraine. US President Donald Trump lauded the decision at Jeddah talks, while affirming hope that Russia will also agree to it in a meeting with their officials soon. Trump also mentioned that he will invite the Ukrainian president again to the White House.
Ukraine ceasefire, just agreed to a little while ago. Now we have to go to Russia and hopefully President Putin will agree to that also. We're going to meet with them later on today and tomorrow, and hopefully we'll be able to wipe out a deal. But I think the ceasefire is very important.
Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky also hailed the offer, saying that the ceasefire was a positive proposal that covers the front line in the conflict, not just fighting by air and sea.
The American side proposed taking a first step forward, establishing a full ceasefire for 30 days. Not just stopping missiles, drones and bombs, not just ensuring security in the Black Sea, but implementing a complete ceasefire along the entire front line. Ukraine welcomes this proposal.
US Secretary of Staff Marco Rubio said that now the offer will be taken to the Russians and that the ball is now in Moscow's court.
Today we made an offer that the Ukrainians have accepted, which is to enter into a ceasefire and into immediate negotiations to end this conflict in a way that's enduring and sustainable. Hopefully we'll take this offer now to the Russians. And we hope that they'll say yes to peace. The ball is now in their court.
Leaders of the European Union welcomed Ukraine's decision to accept the US ceasefire proposal. European Council President Antonio Costa, European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen and French President Emmanuel Macron calls it a positive progress towards a comprehensive, just and lasting peace for Ukraine. With these significant US-brokered steps taken at the Jeddah talks, President Trump seems to have been on track to fulfill his promises made to end the Ukraine conflict. Bureau Report, DD India.
Meanwhile, US President Donald Trump implemented increased tariffs on all US steel and aluminum imports effective Wednesday, marking a step in his effort to reshape global trade in the favor of the United States. These tariffs restore a 25% duty on metals and extend to numerous downstream products, impacting industries from automotive to consumer goods. Trump said he would probably reconsider the decision to double planned steel and aluminum tariffs on imports from Canada, hours after announcing the sharp hike.
The right thing to do is what we're doing. We're going to get our jobs back, and we're not going to be left at. Now, I will say this, that already Canada, and I respect very much, as you know, there's a very strong man in Canada who said he was going to charge a surcharge or a tariff on electricity coming into our country. He has called and he said he's not going to do that. Okay, he's not going to do that.
In response to the blanket US tariffs on steel and aluminium, European Union has said it will impose counter tariffs on 26 billion euros worth of American goods from next month.
As the United States are applying tariffs worth $28 billion, we are responding with countermeasures worth 26 billion euros. This matches the economic scope of the tariffs of the United States. Our countermeasures will be introduced in 2 steps, starting with April 1st and fully in place as of April 13th. In the meantime, we will always remain open to negotiations.
Alongside, as a reaction to Donald Trump's foreign policy, European leaders have agreed to massively increase their defense spendings in the next few years. Germany's leaders are planning to increase their share for defense by changing the country's constitution, which is a very significant and rare measure. Germany's Chancellor-in-waiting, Friedrich Merz, announced plan to effectively exempt defense spending from the country's constitutional fiscal restraints. Merz proposed exempting defense spending above 1% of GDP from Germany's constitutional debt brake, which typically limits the budget deficit to 0.35% of the GDP. And joining us with more is DW correspondent Thomas Parrow in Berlin. Hello, Thomas. How is Germany planning to amend the constitution, and what is the reaction from the people?
Essentially, Germany has had for a long time, you mentioned that in your introduction, this debt brake, which essentially meant that the government was not allowed to borrow money, not only for defense, but also for infrastructure. The argument back then was that it was important to be fiscally responsible. But obviously, the mood has changed as part of the ongoing war in Ukraine, as part of the instability also that comes specifically from the United States and the new government there of Donald Trump. And the idea that European leaders have to basically have a little bit more independence from the United States when it comes to defense. Now, Germany, in order to have more money, needs to borrow money. And that's why it essentially needs to change that debt brake, which is in the German constitution. In other words, it needs a 2/3 majority in parliament to be able to really amend it. And the current leaders, so basically not only those who are now in government, but also some that will be probably in government when the new parliament comes in at the end of the month, are actually planning to do that as quickly as possible to guarantee that 2/3 majority. It's not a given that it will happen, but it is certainly something that Friedrich Merz, you mentioned him, Germany's next chancellor, the chancellor-in-waiting, let's say, certainly expects, because that's the way in which he will have more money to spend on defense and infrastructure. And many in Germany are actually on board with that. According to a recent survey, in fact, a majority do want Germany to spend more both on defense and on infrastructure. And they're also in favor of this change to the constitution in order to basically have a different idea of what the debt brake means.
And if the increased defense budget does work out, in principle, do we know how the government plans to use the increased defense funds specifically?
There's a long shopping list. If you speak to politicians in the German parliament, not far away from where we are standing, they will mention all sorts of priorities that they believe are important for the German military, not only when it comes to the capabilities specifically in the German military, but also, for example, when it comes to the German military presence in other parts of the world. One concrete example in the Baltic state in NATO's eastern flank. But it's not only about defense, it's not only about the military, especially for some of the opposition parties in parliament. It's important that the increase in defense also comes hand in hand with an increase in infrastructure. And we're talking here about roads, about bridges, about schools, hospitals, etc., which is a big problem in Germany and a big priority also for many voters. So what you will probably see in the next few days, also in the next few weeks, is a very interesting debate in the country, not only about how to use that new money in terms of defense, but also how to use that new money as well in terms of infrastructure.
Thomas, thank you for those updates. Steel plays a key role in Indian economy. Union Minister of State for Heavy Industries and Steel, B.S. Verma, on Wednesday launched the Steel Research and Tech Mission of India, SRTMI, web portal in New Delhi. DD India correspondent Vishal Baristo caught up with the Secretary, Ministry of Steel at the event and talked about the benefits of the scheme, production of green steel and the impact of US tariffs on steel exports from India.
If India is to become 5 trillion economy, then steel is going to play a major role. I have with me Secretary Steel. Let's talk to him and find out. Sir, the GDP of India and the demand for steel is also growing. And today the SRTMI has also been launched. So how will it help the growth, especially green steel?
SRTMI has launched 3 schemes today. One is the challenge method, second is open innovation method, and third is a window for startups. So I think it's a very good step because it will increase research and development in new technologies, in artificial intelligence and machine learning, and also for improving the efficiency of the steel making, not only for ISPs, which is integrated service providers, but also for secondary steel sector, which is roughly 45% of India's production. So I think this is a very good effort to develop this R&D in this steel sector, and it will show some results in the coming years.
With the changing geopolitics and also US tariffs, how do you see the whole scenario, especially in the steel sector?
As I said, India is the only major economy where steel demand is growing about 10%, while other major economies, the steel demand is either stagnant or it is even declining. So I think our own domestic demand is enough for our producers. As I said that by 2030, we will need 300 million tons to cater to our own domestic demand. As far as exports are concerned, we don't export much steel. We export about 7-8 million tons of steel out of the 145 million tons we produced last year. And to US, we export less than 100,000 tons. So I don't think this is going to affect our steel industry to a major extent.
So there you heard Secretary Steel, the US sanctions will not affect the steel industry as much, and India is focusing more on its own research and development. With cameraman Piyush in Delhi, this is Vishal Baristo for DD India.
That's all for this edition of DD India Live. Let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. For those on the go, you can get all the latest news and updates from India and across the world on DD India mobile app. The app is available on both Android and iOS platforms. Scan this QR code on your screens to download now. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Shubhendu Ghosh from all of us here in Delhi. Thanks for watching DD India Live. Namaskar.